Hello, fellow grave crawlers, and welcome to ZTV Reviews. I am Paper Zombie, your host with you as always. And on today's episode, we're diving into episode 2 of season 1 of Chucky. So without further ado, let's talk about Give Me Something Good to Eat. Give Me Something Good to Eat brings us back to Hackensack approximately 1 week after the last episode. And guess what? It's Halloween. We join up with Jake, who is returning to school for the first time since Luke's death. When the majority of his peers see him back on campus, they either stare in surprise or stare in repulsion. But 2 students in particular go against that grain, with the first one being very unexpected. This is Oliver, played by Avery Estevez. And he might look familiar because he was the other boy that Lexi had pictures of on her phone in the previous episode. I didn't mention him before because I thought he was just going to be a background character with no actual impact on the story, because we didn't get to see much of him. And the deepest insight that we got on his character was his name. But when we did get to see him, he was mostly bullying Jake and was the only one out of Jake's bullies who will go out of their way to do it. So it's a very big surprise when he comes up to Jake and genuinely apologizes for all the bullying he's done. He even gives his condolences about Luke and attempts to make amends by inviting Jake to his Halloween party. Jake, of course, is blown away by this, but is accepting of Oliver's turning of a new leaf. The second student who's glad to see Jake back is Devin, who has also heard about Luke and gives his condolences as well. We find out that Devin lost his father at the age of 9, and he talks about how that changed things between him and his mother. For Jake, Devin's words echo what he feels like happened between him and Luke. Devin tells Jake that he wouldn't have gotten through that time without his friends. And to back those words up, he offers up his friendship to Jake, which Jake accepts. While Jake and Devin bond at school, Chucky bonds with the housekeeper at Logan and Bree's house when he pushes her into the dishwasher and causes her to fall on the knives that are conveniently placed upright on the lower level. She stays that way until Jake and Junior arrive home from school and discover her body. A call to 911 brings Detective Evans and her partner to the scene. And even though there's irrefutable evidence that Jake was nowhere near the house when the murder took place, the partner still thinks it's Jake who's responsible. But Detective Evans is not convinced in the least and feels that there's something else at play. Cut to after the police and paramedics have left, as Jake confronts the first, second, and third person on his suspect list, Chucky. But Chucky swears up and down that he didn't kill the housekeeper. What he did do, though, was read Jake's journal.
You should just call it Devin.
Shut up.
When this cuts Jake deeper than Chucky intended, Chucky reveals that he himself has a kid who's gender fluid and that he's completely fine with it. When Jake is still unconvinced that Chucky didn't kill the housekeeper, Chucky has to speak facts. He's got his sights set on bigger game than the housekeeper. Plus, he could have killed anyone in the house at any time during the past week, up to and including Jake. This rightfully sets Jake on edge and leads him to ask Chucky why he hasn't killed him. And Chucky answers, because he's trying to help him, before pulling a perspective switch by telling Jake that now he lives in a beautiful home instead of the hole he used to live in and is minus a heel who used him like a punching bag. Jake can't deny that Chucky's actions have had benefits, but he tells Chucky that he doesn't want him killing anymore, especially his bigger game. And I think we all know who that bigger game is. Cut to the residents of that bigger game. We discover that Lexi's mother, Michelle, played by Barbara Allen Woods, is the mayor of Hackensack. We're also officially introduced to her father, Nathan, played by Michael Theriault, and her little sister, Caroline, played by Karina London Batrick. Though it's not directly said, it is implied that Caroline is autistic or has one of those similar type of disabilities. And after seeing Chucky at the talent show in the previous episode, little Caroline has taken a liking to him. We then cut to the Evans residence, where Devin and Detective Evans, whose first name is Kim, are talking in Devin's room. When Devin mentions Oliver's Halloween party, it triggers Kim's detective mode, and she starts questioning him about Jake. She asks if Jake is going to the party, if Devin has been hanging out with Jake now that he and Junior are living in the same house, and if Jake has ever said anything to Devin about abuse from Luke. Devin quickly proves that he's used to this kind of interrogation and denies having any involvement with Jake. Then, he gets a little nosy himself by asking his mother why Luke would have abused Jake. When Kim answers, possibly because of Jake's orientation, it leads to this exchange.
How would I know?
I don't know.
Mom, what are we talking about?
Yeah. What was that all about? Was that just Kim being nosy and trying to rule out possibilities? Or was she trying to say something? We're left to ponder as Kim returns to the office and Devin heads out to Oliver's party. On the way, Devin exchanged texts with the very person he's denied having involvement with, who reveals that he won't be going to the party. Junior, however, is going to the party. And shortly after he leaves, Jake makes a frightening discovery when he finds that Chucky is also gone. And just where has old Chuckles gotten off to? He's on his way to the party. It being Halloween and all, he blends right in with all the other costume kids and adults. But Chucky doesn't know where Oliver's house is at. So he poses as a trick-or-treater and asks one of the local residents. When she lets him know where to go, Chucky hands her a treat in the form of a green apple. Cut to Oliver's house, where the party is in full swing. All kinds of unsupervised minors are hanging out. Drinking, smoking, you know, the usual. One such minor is Lexi, who's in one of the rooms getting lit like it's 4th of July. Junior finds his way to her, and after making sure that she's okay, warns her to watch out for Jake. See, earlier, Junior snuck into Jake's room and saw that he had Lexi's social media page up on his laptop. This was just after he overheard a conversation between his parents, where Bree expressed concern about not really being able to know what was going on in Jake's mind. But Lexi is not afraid of Jake Wheeler. She's just creeped out by Chucky. And she should be, because Chucky is a lot closer than she thinks. Him and Caroline are downstairs chilling in one of the rooms playing a video game together. When Chucky discovers from Caroline where Lexi might be in the house, it leads him upstairs, where he hides under the bed and attempts to stab Lexi multiple times through the mattress, while her and Junior make out on top of it. His attempt is fizzled, though, when another partygoer intrudes on the makeout session, which causes Junior and Lexi to vacate the room. Meanwhile, Jake makes it to the party, and with Devin in tow, goes in search of Lexi. It eventually leads them to the front room, where a big crowd of partygoers are laughing and cheering as Lexi debuts her Halloween costume. Yeah, this little heifer's Halloween costume is Luke in full electrocution mode. And all I have to say is that Lexi better be lucky that I'm not Jake. Because if I would have walked into the room and saw her imitating my father getting electrocuted, like that's what's on and popping now, I would have gave a big fat 0 that she was a girl. I would have came through that crowd and walked up on her and been like, would have ragdoll her body clear across the frickin' room to the other side. But Jake isn't me, and just gets mad and leaves the party. Or at least he starts to, before it's like he heard my thoughts, and proceeds back into the party, where he plans to show Lexi what it's like to get hurt. However, when he goes to confront her, Chucky is already on the scene, and is about to take another stab at his goal. The attempt is fizzled again, as Devin and Junior show up in search of Jake, and Chucky has to go dormant in order not to blow his cover. This lets Jake grab Chucky and vacate the premises with him. We then cut to the nice lady that Chucky gave the green apple to earlier. Guess what? It had a razor blade in it. She makes her report to Kim, who finds that the woman's description of the person who gave her the apple matches a certain good guy doll that she saw at the school talent show. We then move on to Jake's room, where he lies in bed, still very much pissed about what Lexi did to him. Chucky can see this, and goes to work on Jake with one of the darkest pep talks ever. It's so good that by the end of it, Jake finally lets all the pain and anger that he's been holding in come to the surface. and his bad side, of whom we'll call Jakey, finally comes out to play. And when Chucky passes the goal of killing Lexi on to Jakey by handing him his knife, Jakey takes it. And that's where we're left hanging as episode 2 comes to a close. I like this episode. The comedy takes a back seat in favor of a tense, slow burn type of atmosphere. And it also puts Jake and Chucky in the back seat for most of the episode in order to give the viewer deeper insight into all of the other characters. We get to see that Logan's can-do attitude is just part of his general nature and is not a weapon that he uses against people. He genuinely believes that Junior can handle any pressure or challenge that comes his way and will do everything in his power to enforce that idea. He also doesn't believe that Jake could ever be a killer and is the positive to Bree's negative thoughts when it comes to them not knowing what could or couldn't be going on in Jake's head. But I feel like Bree has the right to be concerned. She and Logan don't know what life was like for Jake behind closed doors with Luke. And with Jake not being their son, they truly don't know what could or couldn't be going on inside of his head. For Junior, we get to see a whole lot about the relationship between him and Lexi. We get to see that his feelings are so true for her that he's willing to be her knight in shining armor, the one who'd be there to catch her if she ever falls. But Junior doesn't feel that Lexi would do the same for him and would just as soon as throw him to the wolves if it meant that she would survive. And Lexi. We continue to see that she's still freaking self-centered. And it makes me think that she might not be able to see how that self-centeredness brings on a lot of her pain. When she calls Caroline's drawing of Chucky hideous, her mother snaps back by telling her that Caroline is better at drawing than anything Lexi has ever done in her entire life. And when Junior tells her that he doesn't think that she'd be there to catch him if he fell, we can see that she gets cut deep in both these situations. But we don't ever see her reflect and grow from these experiences. Instead, we see her turn around and do what she does to Jake while being fully aware that she's also making fun of her boyfriend's uncle at the same time. Yeah. Special that one is. Devin brings us all kinds of insight into his world. We see that he genuinely does care about Jake and honestly wants to be friends with him. We also have his words about how his father's death changed things between him and his mother playing in our heads when he and Kim have their scene together. And when we take that scene, plus another scene that happens at Oliver's party, where Devin and Jake get no hate pranked by Oliver and get locked in the closet for 7 minutes of hell, we the audience have been left to wonder if Devin and Jake have a little more in common than initially thought. Kim gets the least amount of screen time, but we know that she's putting the clues together, and that those clues are drawing a pretty bizarre picture. I'm not sure what move she's going to make next, but she'll have to be careful if she doesn't want to draw Chucky's attention. And speaking of Chucky, although he and Jake are mostly in the background this episode, when they're in the spotlight, they shine. I'm still trying to figure out why Chucky killed the housekeeper. Like, she gave him no provocation. He just upped and did it, like Rick James grinded his muddy boots on couches. And it goes to show how twisted Chucky is, that he can bold-faced lie to Jake while trying to gain his trust at the same time. I like that Chucky makes a reference to his kids. We haven't seen them since the 6th film, and I was wondering if the writers were going to keep them as canon. It makes me wonder how Chucky sees Jake. Through paternal eyes, or through training future protege eyes? Unfortunately, they both lead to the path of a killer, so either way, it's all bad news for Jake. And poor Jake, man. What started as a good day for him turned into tragedy by nightfall. And he did nothing to invoke that tragedy except exist. I like that we get to see that Jake does have a limit to the shit he's willing to take. I was concerned that he was just going to keep taking it and taking it and taking it because he felt powerless to stop it, which would then ultimately lead to Chucky striking down all of those who were tormenting him. But not now. Not after we've seen Jakey. And I'm concerned that he'll go through with killing Lexi, because she has provided more than enough fuel for that fire. But if he does it, then that's a line that once crossed, it can't be crossed back over again. I'm eager for episode 3, because I want to see how all of this is going to go down. So until next time, I am Paper Zombie, and I'll see you then.